Thank you. How many of you guys want to learn how to acquire a customer like me? That's important. I'm gonna hit on this because you guys need to understand how you do business with me. You know, if you guys want to be able to come and generate capital, you guys need to learn how to think like investors. You guys need to learn how to invest like investors. You guys need to learn how to acquire investors as clients, because how many of you guys would like to sell me a $5 million piece of land? You know, how many people would like to market an apartment complex that's worth over $50 million, right? Yeah. So look, guys, this is how it starts. It starts from the ground up. You can't start, I'd lie to you guys if I told you guys could get started and go in and get a $30 million apartment complex. You can if you syndicate. You can. You're going to give 70% of the equity away. You're going to retain a small piece of it, and that's a good way to start. I would take these little retail places, the stuff that you drive by every single day. They're financially distressed, they're ugly as hell, they're pieces of shit little buildings, and you drive by them every single day. And I would go and I started looking at these things. They had good bones, they had a good structure, they had walls that stood vertical, straight up. We'd go in there, we'd gut them. But if you have to build that asset today, it's going to cost you over $100+ a square foot to build. But right here in California, there's those exact same assets that you can buy for 60 cents on the dollar. You can go in and buy that stuff for $50 a square foot, $60 a square foot. Nobody wants it. But you can go in, put a modest amount of money in it, you can turn it around, put a nice facade on it, and you can lease that for half the price of your competitors that are going financially belly up, okay? That's what I did, and I did that for years. In 2008, in 2004, I started building this stuff vertical from the ground up. And one of the big things that happened was 2008, I couldn't lease it. And I got stuck in a bunch of Class A retail assets that nobody wanted, and I had empty buildings, and I almost went out of business. So in 2009, 2010, I started buying single-family homes in Phoenix and multifamily fourplexes that I was picking up for $20,000, $30,000, $45,000, and I put a total of 78 units of single family and fourplexes together that landed up being valued at $3.2 million. I spent about $900,000 putting it together. That's how I got into the multifamily space, okay? Now, look, when we built that, and that's like one of a lot of what we have going on. I'm like Sergio, I'm addicted to business. We have a bunch of stuff, and it becomes a game, and it becomes less about the money and more about the can I do it, the challenge, yeah? And that's really what that's what it really comes down to at the end of the day is at some point in time, you don't need the money for your family, right? We're building generational wealth for our family, my wife and I. But the biggest thing is we have enough to stop today and live plentiful for the rest of our lives. But the thing that we don't have is the ability to show our kids how to do it if we stop, okay? And so I want to show you and talk to you guys about what I teach my kids. And I'm going to give you guys a few different ways that you guys can generate capital, okay? So look, here's what you guys got to understand today. Banking is tough. No one wants to lend money, okay? And the reason why is because banks want to make sure they're going to get a return on investment. And with banks wanting to make sure they're going to get a return on investment, it makes it more difficult for you guys. Now, here's how you guys solve some of that, is you guys have to learn what banks are looking for, because a bank doesn't generate revenue unless it lends money, right? And if they stop lending money, then they're out of business. So learning what banks are looking for is extremely important. I want to give you guys something tangible, okay, that you guys can understand. Because if you guys understand this, you guys can learn how to sell land, how to sell real estate to people like me, okay? And one of the biggest problems with brokers, and I'm going to bust you guys up here a little bit, okay? I hope that's okay. Do I have your guys' permission to bust you guys up a little bit? Yeah? Is it okay? Or no? Some of you guys are unsure. Can I? I know a lot of you guys are realtors. Okay, so look, guys, I'm going to bust you guys up. One of the people that I hate the most, and not hate like anger hate, right? But frustrate me the most are realtors, okay? Plain and simple. And not just me, but other investors. And let me explain to you why. Because most realtors are supposed to be real estate professionals, but yet they know nothing about investing. All they know how to do is sell a house, and they have one person's interest in mind. Doesn't matter about your bullshit fiduciary duties. That shit doesn't matter. That shit goes down the drain. Because if you can't feed your family, do you give a shit about anybody else but you? Be honest. Right? I mean, a starving person can't feed another starving person, right? I mean, you have to save yourself in order to be able to go out there and make a difference in your life. You have to. And so understand that if you guys are going out there and you guys only have your best interest in mind, you're not doing what you need to for the client. So sophisticated investors like myself, like Sergio, we're not going to buy from you guys. We're not even going to use you. You know why? Because you don't have my best interest in mind. I can't trust that what you guys underwrote is going to benefit me. So guess who's underwriting that to take care of my own best interest? Myself. Realtors have the biggest ego out of any profession that I know. Doctors come in second place. Okay? And I'll tell you guys that I don't understand why, because the average realtor makes $15,000 a year nationwide. Some of them are friggin' crushing it. And some of them don't even make a living. Okay? So here's how you change that. Because I want you guys to arm yourselves with something more than the rest of the realtors out there. We got an incredible group, a few men, but mostly women in here. And I'll tell you guys, you women are the driving force of America right now, because most men are lazy. You women have the ability to move mountains. Yeah? Yeah. Some of the best people that I know right now that are syndicating, raising capital, and doing stuff are women. I sat down on Saturday, did an outreach, and I sat down, I told my wife, shit, I called 2 women for every 1 man that I called for an outreach of what we're doing right now in banking, lending, and capital raising. Women. You women have the ability to no longer feel inferior to any man in an industry. It's the one who gets up and goes to work. But you guys have to understand this stuff first, okay? Ego's in your back pocket, and you guys have to sit down and understand how to go in and how to invest, okay? No one raised their hand except for about 3 people when I asked them if they knew what a cap rate is, okay? Here's a cap rate. We're sitting in a compressed market right now where cap rates were compressed when the market was extremely high, okay? So if you go back 1 year ago, when interest rates were sitting at about 3%, because interest rates really started to change about June, July last summer, yes? Yeah. So if you go back to like a year ago, maybe a year and a half ago, we were sitting back at like sub 3% interest rates. So which makes it viable for a cap rate to be 3%. Okay? Now, look, cap rates and interest rates, they have to run in parallel to each other. Because if you go in and you have a 6% interest rate, can you service the debt on that 6% loan with a 3% return on your investment? Can you? You can't. You can't. Because what happens is now you're only making 3%. How the hell do you service 6% of debt? You see? So what ends up happening right now is a lot of investors thought the market was going to continue to rise. So what's happening right now is there's what's called a 5-1 arm. Do you guys know what an arm is? Yeah? It's an adjustable rate mortgage, right? You guys do know that. So look, if you have an adjustable rate mortgage that after 5 years matures, what happens to that interest rate? Even if it was 3% or sub 3%, it goes up to this number, right? It goes up to the interest rate that's current, which is actually higher than 6%. It's pushing closer to 7% right now. Okay? So we have all these people that purchased at a 3% cap rate that now have an arm that's going up to 6%. And so what ends up happening, ladies and gentlemen, is they can't service that debt anymore. And so the banks are looking for buyers. The banks want people to come in and save that asset, and they're looking for buyers just like you guys, just like me. And they want these properties stabilized, because what happens to that asset that was once an asset to that bank? What is it now to that bank? It's a liability, right? And it's a liability for whoever purchased it, and it's a liability for the bank. The bank has more interest in this real estate than you and I do, because the banks were lending up to 80% on these investments. And so if the banks were lending 80% and you only have a 20% interest in it, who's more liable than yourself? The bank. I'm still learning, ladies and gentlemen. I'm studying every single day. I'm listening to stuff and I'm researching. I was on a 1-hour phone call in the parking lot with Mo talking to the Meridian group about loans. I have an appointment with Azzy and the Forbix group right after this meeting, because I'm always going and I'm learning about what interest rates are, what banking is, and I'm always constantly learning. So if you're not, you lose. If you guys think you guys already have it figured out, then you shouldn't be here, but you're here. And what that tells me is that you guys are in the top 5% of people. Okay, so get this, guys, because if all you leave with today, out of anything that you guys hear, marriage counseling or anything, I'm telling you guys, understand this. Because if you understand this, you can learn how to invest. and you can learn how to acquire customers like me. Okay, here's what's happening in the banking industry right now, and here's what's happening in the investment world. So there's what's called a net operating income in any property. It's the amount of money that the property makes after you pay all expenses. Okay, so if you have a house, or you have a building, you have an apartment complex, you have ground maintenance, you have light bulbs, you have clogged toilets, you have capital expenses for new roofs, you have insurance, you have all these expenses when you own real estate, yes? Okay, so at the end of that, you have an amount of money that you should have left after you do that. That's not including the debt service. That excludes the debt service on that piece of property. Okay, so let's just take, for example, you have a property that's doing, you guys are gonna have to help me because I don't have a calculator up here, but let's say, for example, you have a property that at the end of all its expenses, and NOIs are all done on an annual basis, okay? So it's not a monthly basis, it's all multiplied by 12 when you're doing a monthly rent roll of whatever you own. And so let's say that you have a net operating income, that you net $100,000 a year in rental income from a property. Does that sound viable? Yeah? 100 grand? Okay. So let's use $100,000 as our NOI. Okay? I want you guys to understand what's happening in the banking industry right now. And you guys remember that 5-1 arm that I'm talking about that's expiring? Okay, here's the reality of where the opportunity right now comes from. Because I want you guys to be able to visualize this and know what you're looking for. Because you could go out there and say, okay, I'm looking for a distressed asset, but how do you know it's a distressed asset financially? How do you know that? This is how you know that. Okay, so the way you find value on a property, the way a bank looks at value, is they take the net operating income and they divide that by whatever the cap rate is. Okay? So this doesn't exist anymore, that 3%. But let's see what happened in 2008, and let's see what happened in 2020 when they financed this at 3%. So if you take $100,000 and you divide that by 3%, what is that value, guys? Can someone help me with that? 3.33 million. Okay. Now, when they did this, they were at an 80% loan to value, okay? Because that's what banks were giving. They were giving 80% if you had experience. If you didn't have experience, maybe it was 70% loan to value. But you had a loan on 80% of this right here, okay? Now, I want you guys to do that based on, interest rates are closer to 7%, but let's just say they're 6%. Let's just double this. So you take this exact same number, this $100,000, and you divide that by 6% cap rate, okay? Because you have to service the debt on it. 1.66 million. How could this be, guys? You have the same income flow. You got the same income. It's the same property that existed a year and a half ago. No different, right? Same piece of real estate, same tiles on the roof, no roof leaks. Looks just as beautiful. The lawns are just as green. They're getting mowed the exact same way. The rents are the exact same amount. You still function on a 95% occupancy, but yet the interest rates alone made your asset, your value, go down by 50%. That's all it's worth to the bank. It was worth this. You got a 5-1 arm for a $3.3 million asset. Now you go in, 5 years is up, 5 years is gone, guys. Now you're on an adjustable rate mortgage. And now you're back up close to 7%. You're sitting back trying to stabilize this asset, and you don't know how to do it because you're only functioning on a 3% cap rate, and you're sitting back trying to service debt, service debt, service debt. Guess who was doing that in 2008? Me. My wife and I called it trash can money. We were servicing 6 figures in debt every single month. I was pouring concrete like it was going outside. I still have a concrete company today. We were pouring concrete and we were selling concrete jobs to service debt on properties. I was buying piece of crap assets in Phoenix, Class D. Like if any of you guys know Phoenix, right off the 202 between 40th and 44th Street, right behind the Chinese Cultural Center, there was a bunch of ugly fourplexes. Right behind there, I owned them all, except for about 5 or 6 of those fourplexes. Every single one of those ugly ones, I owned them. And I was buying them for like $40,000, $45,000 per fourplex. And we were getting about $750 a month in rent. I was buying single family homes in Phoenix for someplace in the neighborhood of $28,000 and $40,000 for homes we were renting for $900 to $1,100 a month in rental income. How cool is that? At the time, Phoenix was going through a huge thing about, they were going through a huge immigration ploy. And they said that if you got caught leasing to illegal immigrants, you got fined $2,500 per occurrence. Guess who all my tenants were? Illegal immigrants. I was like, screw it. They need a place to live too. And guess who was working on my properties? All of them. I went to the Home Depot on Thomas and 36th, and I picked them up right off the curb there. And those guys still do work for us today. Some of them now are working on $50 million developments. Pretty good investment? Yeah? Yeah. And I was using the money from that to service the debt on this, and I barely got through that. By the hair on my chin, I got through that. There was moments that I thought I wasn't gonna get through it. But I'll tell you guys, we got through it by servicing debt on this. Now, the opportunity that you guys have today is identical to what we had in 2009 and 10. You don't have to go after big, massive assets. You don't have to go after $5 million, $10 million, $20 million, $30 million assets. This stuff exists in $1 million, $2 million assets, $500,000, $600,000 assets. It does. And the thing that you need to know is this right here. Because when you go in and the asking price is $3.3 million, there is no bank on this earth that's going to lend $3.3 million on that asset anymore. There is no bank crazy enough. And not only are they not only going to do that, but they're only going to lend you between 60 to 70% loan to value right now. This is reality, ladies and gentlemen. How many of you guys are hearing that there's blood in the water and there's opportunity on the streets? Where is it? Where is it though? Has anybody taught you where it comes from? Has anybody taught you this? Anyway, by show of hands, how many of you guys have seen this before? Anybody? 2 people, 3 people, 4 people. Okay? 2 of which, one's in banking and one's an investor. So almost nobody. Ladies and gentlemen, I'm telling you guys, this is where opportunity lies right now, is right here. This is the reality of what's happening right now today. So if you guys are sitting back going, okay, what do I invest in? Everything. This is what you guys are looking for. You guys want to invest flex warehouse, office warehouse. You guys want to go into industrial warehouse, multifamily. We're in the affordable housing sector of multifamily, not low income, affordable. We just strip amenities. We build it like a Class A asset, and we strip all the amenities out of it and rent it for B+ rents. But what we're doing now is my business model changed, because I'm not stubborn, guys. I follow money. And what I do is I've been building. I'm a ground up guy. I had gotten out of the ground up development business about 2016, because in 2016 I was buying value add, which means I'm buying distressed, either financially or physically distressed assets, adding value to them and then writing it up. By 2018 though, what happened is the market shifted. You can't go in and compete with these guys. And I knew this was going to happen because I lived it. This is my 3rd recession that I've lived through. And so I knew this was going to happen. So I kept telling the brokers, I was like, who the hell's going to pay this shit for these assets? I would tell them, are you fucking crazy? Excuse my language. That's what I would tell them. And they'd all look at me like I was from outer space. And they're like, bro, they're selling for that. You just got, that's what people are paying. And I was like, it's crazy. So I started building them because I could build the same asset and get a 15% cap rate on it, 15% return on investment versus this bullshit, 3%. Okay? And I was crushing it. I've been crushing it. Guess what's happening to banks right now? Guess what's happening to people like me right now that are doing ground up construction? My values just went in half. So the price to build, I was going in with like 40% equity in my developments. The day I stabilized them, I retained 40% equity in a $50 million project, and I owned it 100%. How many people want to be in that position? Yeah. Guess what's happening today? I'm working for free. I am. And so here's why I'm working for free. Because I can barely get my projects to pencil right now for what they're valued at versus what they cost me to build. And I can't get no cash out of them. I just have to build them knowing that I'm going to work for free for the next 2 years building this asset. And at the end of building it, I'm just going to be able to live on rents. And that's it. I'm not going to be able to pull any cash out of it. But you know what I can do? I can depreciate the whole damn thing within 5 years and take the entire asset and pay no taxes on it. But if I don't have no income, then I don't have no taxes to worry about, right? But we're literally working for free right now, building assets. That's what we're doing. I tell my wife, we're working for free right now. But when interest rates drop back down and values go back up, we're gonna have a heyday, ladies and gentlemen. We will have a heyday. So you know what we've decided to do in addition to doing ground up construction? Is exactly what I'm telling each person sitting in this room today to do. To start looking at financially distressed assets. What's financially distressed, ladies and gentlemen? Anybody who did a 5-1 arm, that asset is financially distressed. These big syndicators that were paying preferred dividends, do you guys know what a preferred dividend is? Is there anybody who doesn't know what a preferred dividend is? Please show me your hand so I know. That's just by show hands. Don't be embarrassed. Okay, a preferred return, okay, and a dividend is what you make from whoever you're giving your money to as a return on your investment, and you make that return indefinitely, no matter what that asset does. Okay, so like I invest in a lot of blue chip stocks, stuff that are large companies like Johnson & Johnson. It was a good one that I just bought because they just got through their talc powder lawsuit. I invest in Boeing because Boeing pays a dividend. They're going to, again, they're not right now, but they will. And no matter how Boeing does, I'm going to continue making a 2, 3, 4% return on my money. ExxonMobil. I got Exxon for 6% dividend, and then I bought more of it at an 8% dividend. So no matter how Exxon does, I make 6% or 8%. A dividend on my return. Smart or not smart. Doesn't matter. Stock can go up or down. Doesn't matter how volatile the market is, I make my return. Doesn't matter. So I only invest in dividend paying stocks. And we leverage against our own money and pull it against real estate. So my money continues making me money on these dividends. So syndicators that have been raising capital, a lot of them have been raising capital, paying preferred returns and dividends on the money that they're bringing in. So large syndication companies, people that own portfolios of 3,000, 5,000, 8,000 doors, you're going to see these institutional assets go up for auction. Ladies and gentlemen, you will hear about it. I'm telling you guys before the news gets a hold of it, because over the next 6 months, you're going to see it, you're going to hear it, and you're going to say, oh yeah, that short dude up in California told me about this shit a while back. And I'm going to say, yeah, it's coming, guys. We're on the brinks of it right now. Because if you're paying a preferred return and you have an arm and your interest rates are high, how do you go up and pony up the money for that stuff? BlackRock, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to give you the high level of this. BlackRock, largest investment company in the world, okay? They are commissioned by the Federal Reserve. They're commissioned by the Federal Reserve. The Federal Reserve that prints our cash, non-constitutional as that is, they print our U.S. currency. And they commission BlackRock to invest the money that comes in from you and I into assets. BlackRock has been indefinitely halted right now from buying real estate because of this right here and the arms that they have on their real estate. So guess what we're looking at right now? I'm just waiting for all this stuff that BlackRock has to come available, because I'm sitting back going, shit, I'm going to go buy a $100 million asset for $50 million. You guys should be looking at this going, I'm going to go buy a $1 million asset for $500,000. I'm going to go buy a $2 million asset for $1 million, because that's all the banks will lend on it. And real estate is only worth what it can appraise for. It can only appraise for what it brings in regards to revenue. If it doesn't bring in the revenue, banks and institutions aren't going to lend on it. So what you should be focusing on is what banks are really going to lend on. And real estate is just like a drug user. First, they go into denial. And they sit back going, I'm not a drug user. I don't use drugs, right? Like, I don't do it. And then you sit back and you look at real estate as investors. And real estate investors sit back and go, I'm not in trouble. I'm good. I got everything going on just right? And they're in denial. And they won't sell for that price. Then they're sitting back and they go, oh shit. I am a user, I just don't know how to get help, right? So now they're looking around going, shit, who's going to help me? How am I going to get out of this? And then there's the reality of what happens. Either rehab or death, right? And that's real estate. They either need to go get rehabbed by someone like us, or they die. And when they die, guess what? We're still sitting there with a big giant smile going, okay, sorry you died, but shit, I'm going to go pick you up for a discounted price. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the reality of what's happening in the market. Did you guys learn anything today? Okay. That's real estate on a 300 level. That's not 101 stuff, guys. Every single realtor should know this stuff. Every realtor. The problem with real estate and realtors is they don't know this stuff. They don't understand it. So you'll never sell to an investor. You'll never hit the level of real estate that you want to hit until you understand this stuff, because you don't know how money works. You don't know how banking works. How can you sell an asset and large assets to investors if you don't even understand how it works? Yeah? Yeah. How many of you guys took something away from here today that you're sitting back going, damn, now I can figure this out? You may not retain any of this, but you can go look it up on YouTube now, right? And then I'm going to pop up. So ladies and gentlemen, take advantage of this stuff. Right now, no one's talking about this. This is the reality of what's happening. If we're only so lucky to be blessed with 2 years of blood in the water, you guys have 2 years to take advantage of 1, 2, 3 little deals that could be life-changing for all of you guys. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you guys for sharing your afternoon with me. God bless you guys. And I wish you guys all the best of luck. Go out there and crush it, guys. You guys may not live to see another opportunity like this, at least not in your professional careers. This may be your last time that you ever see an opportunity that exists to this magnitude. And I'm not fucking around. Excuse my language. I'm serious. Embrace that and take that as you will. God bless you guys and have a good night.